Hi there, how's everyone doing? So, hopefully you're not tuning in for the very first time, but if you are, then my name's Marianne. I'm a relationship counsellor. I work with couples and with individuals. So I've been doing quite a few videos over this weekend because I'm staying in Kent for business. And one of the videos I did on my Facebook page yesterday was about domestic violence. Well, it was actually called "When is the right time to walk away?" So that could mean any situation that's not healthy for you. And what I'm trying to do is do more videos around the topic of domestic abuse and negative relationships, because I don't feel that there's enough, not just counsellors, but just people generally find it a sensitive topic. Now, because I've worked at Women's Aid for 3 years as a counsellor there, I'm quite comfortable talking about this topic, but also based on the work I did with the women there. Now, I never disclose stories of any of my clients at any time, because I just don't think that's the right thing to do. So a lot of the information is based on my experience and knowledge, and sometimes I will generalise, but I will never talk about a client story. So what I want to talk about in this video is about the cycle of abuse and the reasons why sometimes people keep going back to an abusive situation. I think there's a lack of understanding around it. I think society sees it as being that if a person stays in an abusive relationship, or if, say, they're rescued from that relationship and then they go back, I think there's a lot of anger, resentment, and a lot of, I don't really understand this, or why do they do that? They must like it, or, you know, something's wrong with them. So I'm just going to talk about 3 reasons that people may continue to go back and forth into these abusive relationships. So number 1 is that women sometimes feel comfortable in a situation where they're with someone, especially if they met that person when they were quite vulnerable. So a lot of times what you'll find is abusers, and I am focusing more on men as perpetrators because the majority of abuse is perpetrated by men. I know that there are some men who also face domestic violence. I'm not dismissing that, but in the majority of cases it's usually a male abuser. So I think that if someone is a perpetrator of domestic violence, or even if they're a perpetrator of violence generally, where they've got, you know, a long track record and a long pattern of just, you know, losing it on anyone, or just they're always wound up, they will select their victim, if you like, or they'll select who they're going to date. I don't think at all it's by chance, and it might seem that way. So you might have someone who's sat in a bar, really likable person, or, you know, walking around the supermarket, and maybe the woman has seen him around and he smiles or says hello, doesn't approach, but on the 3rd or 4th time of seeing, oh, I see you in the park sometimes walking your dog, that's not an accident, and that's not something which is him being romantic. That's planned. This is just my feeling based on the training I've done and experience. It's like a grooming thing. So he's just working this person out. How vulnerable is this person? You know, some of the questions sometimes men might ask is, oh, you're too beautiful to be single, or how long have you been single for, or someone like you shouldn't be single, or it's all compliments, chatting you up, building up your self-esteem. And the reason for that is so that you can fall for that person really quickly. So think about it for a minute. If you've come out of a negative relationship, or you've just never had a proper boyfriend or anyone that's treated you well, meeting someone who starts to treat you well, you get into a relationship, he piles it all on, then all of a sudden you're falling in love. When the incident then happens out of the blue, or when an incident keeps occurring, you've got that strong attachment there. So part of it is love, part of it is being comfortable with that person, part of it is the time you've invested in that person, you know, and they've invested in you. So you feel it would be a shame to just end things, you know. It's like your mind is justifying it, but really deep down you know that it doesn't make sense, but you just need some justification for continuing with this person. So part of it is, I mean, women will say, I love him, I love him. I know he treats me badly, but I love him. Now, I personally think if you say those words out loud, or even if you say them to yourself, you're putting a barrier and a block between you ever leaving, because you've already convinced yourself that, you know, regardless of what he does, I love him. Now, it shouldn't even be a case of whether you love him or not. That shouldn't even be something that you're uttering, because your brain is just hearing love. I was listening to Law of Attraction information this morning, and it was saying if someone says, I want to give up smoking cigarettes, your brain only hears cigarettes, and the less likely you're going to stop smoking because you're focusing on the word cigarettes. So instead of saying I love him, I know he beats me up, but I love him, just take love out of the equation. Don't even say that. Just say, maybe you could say something like, I have feelings for this person, but I know it's wrong what he's doing, or I know I deserve better. That's taking him out of the equation altogether. So another thing is, reason why women go back and forth is the strategies that men use. Now, when I worked at Women's Aid, their philosophy is that a woman is never to blame for the violence. And I know that some people will say, well, what if she provokes him? What if she gets in his face? What if she... The point is, everyone's responsible for their actions. So I'm not someone that's going to say that it's right for anyone to get in people's faces, or it's right for people to threaten. Either way, like, violence is wrong. But the point is, you can choose as a person what you want to do in certain situations. You can't say that I beat this person to a pulp because they made me, or I threatened this person or choked them and, you know, left them unconscious because they provoked me, or, you know, I took a knife and I stabbed them because they were, like, getting in my ear. You know, you're choosing to take that action, and you're also taking things to extremes. That is your choice, your decision, your responsibility. So when a woman walks away, sometimes the strategies men will use is to use the children. You know, they might say, oh, I bet the kids miss me. Or they might even say, you can walk, but the kids are not going anywhere. They might, like, continuously phone the person at work, continuously follow them around. I worked with someone years ago where there was just stalking. And when you talk stalking, it was literally the person would stand outside this person's house all day, just pacing up and down, sitting on the wall, phoning, texting, but they would not move. Now that takes some doing, to, like, stalk someone for a good, like, 8 hours, 9 hours, just not move. In that person's mind is, until you come down and speak to me, or until you come back to me, I'm just going to come and stand outside your house every day. So you can understand, when people are using those sorts of strategies, why women sometimes will go back, because it's just a matter of, I can't take this anymore. And the third one is really just about low self-esteem. You know, if you've been beaten down that much, you know, it doesn't even have to be physical. You've just been told you're worthless, you're useless, no one will ever want you anyway. You can go. You know, sometimes men will use, what's it called, reverse psychology. Go on then, go. You know, and the woman will be shocked, and she'll be like, oh, okay, then why is he making it so easy? That means he doesn't love me. That means I better try and make it work, because otherwise, if I just walk, what has this been for? So it's that everything's a strategy. You know, what you have to think about is, there's more relationships where there's not physical violence than there is physical violence, or even any type. I mean, I'm saying physical, it doesn't have to be physical. It's about two individuals coming together and making that choice. You know, anyone that chooses to go down that route of abusive, whether it's emotional or physical, they're choosing to do that. And that's just how I see it. And I think that's how, like, majority of people who work in that field see it. It's not about blaming people for going back to that. It's not about saying you're wrong because you're the one that's with him. So I just want to give you a tip on how not to go back, or maybe a few words on that, even though this video is quite long. Sorry about that. I think the main thing is just to, when you're out of the situation, even if it means you just walk into the shop, so you're away from the abusive household, you're away from the tension, you're away from the atmosphere, think about how it feels. When I'm not around this person, when I'm smiling for once, you know, when people say to me, oh, you look better, what, you know, you look bright today, that might be because he's on holiday or because he's at work. Think about how that feels and try to imagine how that would feel if you were away from him forever. That's the first thing. So you're imagining and envisioning a life without the person. Second of all, use your resources and people around you, friends, family, therapists, whoever it takes, so they can build up your confidence and your self-esteem. Because it's been knocked down so badly, you're not going to have the resources and the emotional strength within you. So you need people around you to help you build that up. When you build that up, you'll start to think differently, feel differently, and you'll know that you don't deserve that. And third of all, think of your planning steps, okay? If you were to just get up and think in your head, right, I'm leaving this person, it's going to be too painful. Even if there's been abuse and all the rest of it, you're going to be thinking, oh, that's too big a step, it's too big. So think of it in steps. Start off by thinking, I'm going to spend more time with my friends, and I'm going to probably take a weekend away, maybe move in with my parents for a little bit. So then it's like a slow separation. Then you start to think, how can I put my plan into action? So maybe that would be using a charity or someone like Women's Aid or myself, a counsellor, to help you make the plan. Then you start to imagine the plan, you know, what's it going to be like when I'm living by myself? You could even research places you're going to live, start looking around houses and things, start imagining it, and then eventually put something in your diary, set a date. You have a leaving date, you know, as if you're leaving work. Put it in your diary, this is the day, and stick to it, stick to the plan, regardless of what he says, regardless of what how things are working out right then. You've got to think that things have been bad for so long. This is the date, I'm leaving. So I hope you found this video useful. I'm going to continue to make videos around stress around counselling related topics, including like domestic abuse, including relationship and couples things, because I do specialise in working with couples and individuals with relationship difficulties. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to share, like, comment and subscribe if you find these videos useful, and I love hearing your comments. Thank you and take care. Bye.